Hello everyone and welcome to lesson 23.1A. I've entitled this video, Landforms and Bodies of Water of Southern Africa. This video is going to cover pages 696 to 701. Well, let's start with the geography of Africa. Here we go. The first country alphabetically is Angola. The next country is Botswana. The next one, Comoros. That is that island right there. Comoros. Next we have Lesotho. Lesotho. It doesn't look like it's spelled that way, but it's pronounced Lesotho. Next we have Madagascar. Next, Malawi. Malawi. Then we have, and this is an interesting pronunciation, Mauritius. Mauritius. I know it doesn't look like it, but it's Mauritius. That's that island right there. Mauritius. Then we have Mozambique. Next up, Namibia. 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 Another interesting way to pronounce this one, Seychelles. So it's kind of like you're saying the word say and then shells, like shells in the water. So Seychelles. That's that island right there. Then we have South Africa. That's all of this right here, not counting these two landlocked countries right there. That's all this is South Africa. That's why I'm calling this video the Southern Africa, not South Africa, because that South Africa is the name of a country. Southern Africa is the region we're discussing. Next up, we have Swaziland. Next up, Zambia. And finally, Zimbabwe. Those are the 14 countries of Southern Africa. Landforms and bodies of water. The region of Southern Africa consists of the 10 southernmost countries on the African continent. It also includes 4 independent island countries and 2 French island territories in the Indian Ocean off Africa's east coast. Southern Africa is bordered by the Indian Ocean on the east and the Atlantic Ocean on the west. The Cape of Good Hope, right down here, at the southern tip of the continent is considered the place where the 2 oceans meet. Several of the region's countries are fairly large. Angola, pictured here, and South Africa, right here, are each nearly the size of Western Europe and are the continent's 7th and 9th largest countries, respectively. Along with Namibia, Mozambique, Zambia, and Botswana, Angola and South Africa rank in the top 25% of the world's countries in land area. The country of Madagascar, pictured here, occupies the world's 4th largest island, also called Madagascar. The region's 3 other island countries, Comoros, Mauritius, and Seychelles, are tiny. Their combined area of 1,800 square miles makes them smaller than the state of Delaware. And now we can answer a couple of questions. Number 15, what ocean is to the west of Southern Africa? That is the Atlantic Ocean. Question 16, what ocean is to the east of Southern Africa? That is the Indian Ocean. Question 17, what is the name of the location where the 2 oceans meet? That is the Cape of Good Hope. Question number 18, what is the 4th largest island in the world? Madagascar, pictured right there. Landforms. If Southern Africa's physical geography had to be described with one word, that word would be high. A series of plateaus that range in elevation from 3,000 feet to 6,000 feet cover most of the region. The northern plateaus extend from Malawi across Zambia and Angola. These plateaus are largely forested. Farther south, the plateaus are covered mainly by grasslands. The plateau's outer edges form a steep slope called the Great Escarpment. In Angola, the escarpment, a steep cliff between a higher and a lower surface, runs parallel to the Atlantic coast and continues through Namibia. Between the escarpment and the Atlantic Ocean lies a strip of desert called the Namib. Namib. That is 80 miles to 100 miles wide. The Namib runs 1,200 miles from southern Angola to western South Africa, where it merges with another desert, the Kalahari. Question number 19. What is a plateau? Well, as defined down here, a plateau is a flat raised landform with a nearly level surface. Question number 20. What is the name of the steep slope near the bottom of southern Africa? That is called the Great Escarpment, and you can see it pictured right here. Question number 21. We've had this one before when we talked about South America. What is an escarpment? That is a steep cliff between a higher and a lower surface. In this case, it's running parallel to the Atlantic coast, but in general, it's a steep cliff between a higher and a lower surface. The Kalahari Desert is a vast, sand-covered plateau that sits some 3,000 feet above sea level. It is bordered by even higher plateaus. The Kalahari covers much of eastern Namibia and most of Botswana, and you can see its coverage right here. In some places, long chains of sand dunes rise as much as 200 feet high. The sand in some areas is red because of minerals that coat the grains of sand. South of the Kalahari Desert, much of the rest of southern Africa is covered by a huge plateau that slopes from about 8,000 feet in the east to 2,000 feet in the west. At the southern tip of this plateau, the Great Escarpment breaks into several small, low mountain ranges. This group of ranges is known as the Cape Ranges. The ranges are separated from each other by dry basins called the Great Karoo and the Little Karoo. And you can see that pictured on this part of the map. Question number 22. What desert, which is the fifth biggest hot desert in the world, covers much of eastern Namibia and most of Botswana? That is the Kalahari. As the Great Escarpment follows South Africa's coastline, it forms the Drakensberg Mountains, pictured bottom left. This is the most rugged part of the escarpment. Mountain peaks rise to more than 11,000 feet. A narrow coastal plain lies between the mountains and the Indian Ocean. The Drakensberg Mountains parallel the Indian Ocean coastline for some 700 miles through Lesotho and Swaziland, two landlocked countries in southern Africa. Near Swaziland, the escarpment pulls back from the coastline to create a broad coastal plain that covers much of Mozambique, northwestern Mozambique, and the neighboring countries of Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Malawi lie at higher elevations west of the escarpment on the plateau. Bodies of water. Three major river systems, the Zambezi, the Limpopo, and the Orange, drain most of southern Africa. The Zambezi, which stretches for 2,200 miles, is the region's longest river. On the Zambia-Zimbabwe border, midway through its course, the Zambezi plunges over the spectacular Victoria Falls, pictured at the bottom there, into a narrow gorge. Roughly a mile wide and 350 feet high, the falls are about twice the width and height of Niagara Falls in North America. Because of the heavy veil of mist that rises from the gorge, the area's indigenous people named the falls Mose Oa Tunya, the smoke that thunders. Question number 23. What is the longest river in southern Africa? The Zambezi. Question 24. What is the famous waterfall found in southern Africa, which is one of the biggest waterfalls in the world? It is Victoria Falls, the gorgeous Victoria Falls. The Orange River is southern Africa's second longest river. It begins in the highlands of Lesotho and flows westward to reach the Atlantic Ocean. Its course marks the southern boundary of the Kalahari Desert. The region's third longest river, the Limpopo, flows eastward in a large arc along South Africa's border with Botswana and Zimbabwe. The river then drops over the Great Escarpment to cross the plains of southern Mozambique to the Indian Ocean. And you can see both the Limpopo pictured on this map and the Orange River pictured on this map. Question number 25. What are the second and third longest rivers found in southern Africa? The second longest is the the second longest is the Orange, and that's pictured here, and the third longest is the Limpopo. These three rivers, their tributaries, and southern Africa's other rivers have carved a network of canyons and gorges across the plateaus. Dams have been built in the area to store water. Lake Kariba, Southern Africa's second largest lake, is really a reservoir, or an artificial lake created by a dam. Question number 26. What is a reservoir? A reservoir is an artificial lake that has been created by a dam, and it's stored to have fresh water, as pictured here. The region's largest lake, and the third largest in all of Africa, is Lake Malawi, also known as Lake Nyasa, which forms Malawi's border with Mozambique and Tanzania. It is the southernmost lake of the Great Rift Valley, which stretches for thousands of miles. Lake Malawi fills a depression or hollow that follows one of the rifts or tears in Earth's crust. Because of the great depth of the depression, Lake Malawi is one of the deepest lakes in the world. Question number 28. Why, wait, is this question? Let's see. We need 27, actually. Question 27. What is the biggest lake in southern Africa and the third biggest lake in all of Africa? It is Lake Malawi, sometimes called Lake Nyasa. Question number 28. Why is Lake Malawi one of the deepest lakes in the world? Because it is filling a depression that is following one of the tears in the Earth's crust. And so it's very deep into the Earth's surface. And so that's why it is such a deep lake. A number of flat basins called pans can be found in southern Africa. The salt deposits they contain provide nourishment for wild animals. Etosha Pan in northern Namibia is an enormous expanse of salt that covers 1,900 square miles. It is the largest pan in Africa, and it is the center of Etosha's National Park. The park is home to some of the greatest numbers of lions, elephants, rhinoceroses, and other large animals in the world. Question number 29. What is a pan in geographic terms? A pan, as described here, is a large, shallow depression in the ground that is found in arid and semi-arid regions. And because it is deep in the ground, as this discusses here, when the water evaporates, it leaves behind a lot of salt. And so these creatures love to go there and lick that salt, get that salt. And that answers question 30. Why did so many animals, wild animals, flock to the Etosha Pan? They're getting those nourishment, those nutrients from the salt deposits that are there. Climate. Southern Africa has a wide variety of climates, ranging from humid to arid to hot to cool. Nearly all the region's climates have distinct seasons, with certain seasons receiving most of the rain. And we can answer question 31, although this word was in the previous slide. What does the word arid mean? It means dry. But we'll get to that in a later slide, I think, where we actually have it written down. Tropical zone. The Tropic of Capricorn crosses the middle of southern Africa. This places the northern half of the region in the tropics. Northern Angola and northern Mozambique have a tropical wet-dry climate. Each area gets as much as 70 inches of rain per year. Most of it falls in the spring, summer, and fall from October to May. The high elevation makes temperatures cool. Daily average temperatures range from the upper 60s to the upper 70s. Along the coast, temperatures are warmer. Much of northern Mozambique's coastline is watered by rain-bearing winds called monsoons that sweep in from the Indian Ocean during the summer months. More than 70 inches of annual rainfall is common. Parts of Angola and Mozambique have humid subtropical climates, as do Malawi, Zambia, and northeastern Zimbabwe. The rainy season here is shorter than in the tropical wet-dry zone, and also brings less rainfall. Most places average 24 inches to 40 inches per year. Average temperatures are also slightly cooler. Nighttime frosts are not uncommon in July on the high plateaus of Zambia and Malawi. Temperatures on summer days in lowland areas, however, can exceed 100 degrees. Temperate zones. Much of South Africa, central Namibia, eastern Botswana, and southern Mozambique have temperate or moderate climates that are not marked by extremes of temperature. Much of these areas are semi-arid. Summer days are warm from 70 degrees to 90 degrees, depending on elevation. Winters are cool, with frost and sometimes freezing temperatures on the high plateaus. Annual rainfall varies from 8 inches in some areas to 24 inches in others. Most of the rain falls during the summer, with very little the rest of the year. Droughts are common. In some places they last for several years. Lesotho, Swaziland, and eastern South Africa, including the Indian Ocean coastline, are much wetter. Temperatures are like those in semi-arid regions, but ocean currents and moist ocean air brings up to 55 inches of rain annually. Like elsewhere in the region, most of this rain falls in the summer. Desert regions. Western South Africa, western Namibia, and much of Botswana are arid. Along the coast, the Namib, get that right, Namib, gets very little rain. In some years, no rain falls, but fog and dew provide small plants with the moisture they need to survive. Temperatures along the coast are mild, however, with daily average ranging from 48 degrees to 68 degrees. The aridity, the fog, and the mild temperatures result from the cold Benguela Current that flows along the coast. This area is sometimes called the Skeleton Coast because many ships used to lose their way in the fog and run aground. Once ashore, the sailors rarely survived because of the lack of water in the sandy desert. In inland areas of the Namib Desert, temperatures are hotter with summer highs from the upper 80s to more than 100 degrees. In winter, freezing temperatures sometimes occur. During wet years, desert grasses and bushes appear. Much of the time, however, the Namib is home to vast areas of barren sand. The Kalahari's location, farther inland than the Namib, and dry air makes its temperatures more extreme than in the Namib. The Kalahari also gets a little bit more precipitation than the Namib. Well, thank you so much for watching. Before we go, of course I've got to have something for you, but I've got more than just one. I've got two for this longer video. Let's start with the first one here. Hey, come on! Don't put your mouth on it! And the other Far Side cartoon that I enjoyed. Let's see. No orange, no root beer, no fudgesicles. Well, for crying out loud, am I out of everything? Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.